All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Believe in Bills, presented by FanDuel. I'm Anna Benigni of WGRZ TV, Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Sal Maiorana, as always, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. And back with us this year, former Buffalo Bill, Bucky Brooks, who is a host for Believe, the Bucky Brooks Show here on this network. Bucky, how are you, man? Thanks for your time today.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, great to have you back. And the Bills off to a 3-0 start. Looking to go 4-0, heavy favorites, 15.5 points against the New Orleans Saints on Sunday in Orchard Park. What are your impressions? I mean, there's so much that's so good about this football team, starting with the quarterback, but there's more than that. Give us your initial impressions, what you've seen from them so far.
I'm just really impressed with the entire organization from top to bottom. Now, I'm a little jaded and biased because I know those guys really well. Brandon Beane and I and some of the other members of the front office, we worked together at Carolina. Watching him ascend to a general manager and build the type of team that we're seeing has been really impressive. But it also starts with Sean McDermott and the coach and what he has been able to do in terms of building what I would say is a blue-collar program, a program that is very mature and professional in terms of the way that his team operates. When you look at them, you just see an emotional stability and a consistency that each and every week when the Bills try, I kind of know what I'm going to get from that team. And to me, it strikes me as those teams that were back in the day, right before I got there, those vintage teams that went to the Super Bowl 4 straight years. You kind of have a championship expectation from this group, and they play to that standard each and every week.
I was going to ask you that very question, Bucky, because you saw this with Marv Levy. Like you said, you missed the Super Bowl years, but even until Marv retired after whatever it was, 97, they were still Marv Levy's teams. He was the CEO, right? Mm-hmm. He was the CEO of that football team. And I think that's very similar to what Sean McDermott has become. I think he's learned how to delegate authority, right? He lets his coordinators do their thing, lets their coaches coach their positions, and he's kind of a CEO. And that's exactly what you saw with Marv, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, no, one of the things, and I was probably too young to fully appreciate it as a young player coming in there on the heels of success that the Bills had. I mean, like we talked about the remarkable run, but what Marv Levy did is, one, he was emotionally stable. He didn't get too high or too low. He just kind of operated at the same level every day. And he really was more of a teacher than a yeller screamer type. When I look at Sean McVay, yeah, he has some feistiness, but when I really look at his demeanor, he is always kind of calm and under control when it comes to having a big picture perspective while also being able to focus on the here and now. And those teams take on the personality of the head coach. And much like Marv was kind of calm and cool and kind of always saw the positives when you had to choose between glass half full or half empty, Sean McDermott has that presence to be able to be like, hey, here's where we are now. Here's where we need to get. Here's the plan going forward. So even if we have a misstep, we'll get back on track. And I think his team appreciates that they know that the head coach is going to be the same each and every day they walk in the building.
Well, you know, the track record of success, Bucky, right? 5 straight division titles. They're obviously in position. It's early, but in position to, they're the class of the division. It looks like it's going to be 6 straight. Despite all of that, and Sal and I kind of shake our heads at this, but among the fan base, because of the fact of what the Bills haven't achieved to this point, which is to get over the top, get into the Super Bowl, and ultimately win it, right? There's this, I don't know, there's a sector of fans that question whether or not Sean McDermott is the guy who can ultimately lead them there and achieve that goal. Now, I'll admit, earlier in his time in Buffalo, after 13 seconds, for example, and that sort of thing, I had my questions. But he's done a lot to answer it. I've seen a maturation in him in terms of how he manages his team in-game. I've seen improvement as well. I'm just interested in your take on that overall notion, which, again, given the success they've had, it kind of leaves you, in some ways, it's left us shaking our heads. And at the same time, what you've seen from him from a coaching perspective, how he's evolved.
Well, yeah, naturally the fan base has high expectations. They have lofty expectations, particularly when you have a quarterback that has played at an MVP level. Everyone wants to tie the success of the team to the success of the quarterback, and that means if Josh is playing at MVP level, this team should be in the Super Bowl, either winning it or always competing for that. But I will say that Buffalo Bills fans have to understand it's kind of a maturation process when it comes to being a championship team. You have to crawl before you walk and walk before you run. And sometimes you have to have your heart broken on several occasions before you build the calluses necessary to be able to overcome the obstacles that are inevitably going to come during a championship run. For Sean McDermott, personally, he's had to endure that. The 13 seconds thing, being able to tear down the team and build it back up. Because I'm going to be honest with you. Last year, after I thought they did the organizational reset, right? Stephon Diggs and some of the guys go out. They completely remake the wide receiver core. They don't have a notable name within the core. And yet this offense is one of the best, if not the best in football. Josh Allen goes from being a really good, great player to MVP caliber player, and they sustain it. Because I'm going to be honest, from the outside looking in, when you look at their roster, they're not the most talented team, but they might be the best team. And so there's this thing in the personnel business where they talk about our job is to build a team, not collect talent. What the Buffalo Bills have done is they brought a bunch of players with complementary skills that make them the best team. And it takes a special person, a coach, to be able to understand that, look, we may let go some of these guys who may have better talent on paper, but I want to make sure that all the pieces come together. The chemistry, the connectivity, continuity work so we can achieve maybe even be above and beyond what the talent suggests that we have. And so I think the Buffalo Bills sometimes do the most with the least, which is why I tip my hat to Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, because they really put this team in a position to win. And I don't know if everyone on the outside would say that if you look at them pound for pound, player for player, that they have a team to be better than some of the heavyweights that exist within the league.
Oh, I could not agree with that anymore. I mean, that's so spot on. The Bills do not have, outside of Josh Allen, and I think you could probably start putting James Cook in that category in at the running back position of real, true difference makers. There's really not, I mean, unless you want to count Joey Bosa at this stage of his career as a true difference maker, and we'll see. I mean, it's very early in his Bills tenure. They don't have those guys, Bucky. They don't have those true difference makers outside of the couple guys I just mentioned, but it's the sum of their parts, right, that gets the job done. I think you nailed that absolutely perfectly, and it is true. This is not the best roster in the NFL, but they might be. They're certainly one of the best teams. We'll see if they're the best team this year. I wanted to ask you specifically about Joe Brady and what he has done to this offense, because as I just said, you mentioned it, their wide receiver core, they lose Stephon Diggs, who was the true alpha of that group for 4 years. They don't have that guy anymore. They got a bunch of guys who do some things well and it all fits. Tell me about how you think or what you've seen of Brady and how he's put this offense together.
One, before I get to talking about Brady and what he's done, I think it's important that everyone understand, particularly Bills fans. Having learned this from Bill Polian during my time with the Carolina Panthers, where his messages lingered, they were talking Carolina and Brandon Beane was there. It typically takes 8 to 12 blue chip players to win a Super Bowl, to operate at that level. And when we talk about blue chip players, we talk about guys that are regarded as top 5, top 10 in their respective positions. So when you think about the Bills and you think about the way the Bills look on paper, they're kind of maybe a little short of that, but they found a way to compete at that level. As it relates to Joe Brady, and what Joe Brady has done is the one thing that players particularly don't like to hear when they're dubbed system players. But if you look at the league, 85% of the players in the league are system players, meaning they need to be in the right system to have the level of success to maximize their talents. When I look at the Buffalo Bills, what Joe Brady has been able to do offensively is to take the best skills of all of these different players and put it together in an offense where they complement one another and everyone is operating at high efficiency. Now, he has the ultimate maestro in Josh Allen, because when those guys can't get open, Josh Allen can put on the cape and go do his Superman stuff, which makes it work. But all of these receivers, from Josh Palmer to Khalil Shakur to Keon Coleman to others, they find a way to just do what they do really well. And a masterful play caller and game plan designer, that's what he does. I'm not going to put you outside of your wheelhouse. I'm going to ask you to just be you. And by you being you, I'll find a way to get everyone going. That's what Joe Brady's done. That is something that is easy to say, but harder to do when it comes to executing on a Sunday.
Well, let's talk about the maestro then, Bucky, right? I mean, Allen, and you talk about maturation and a guy whose game has evolved. Sal and I were on earlier this week and talked about the fact. I mean, the biggest thing, and there are so many facets to it, from his mechanics, the fundamentals, all those types of things, the accuracy. The biggest factor, I think, has been his ability to limit the turnovers, right? I mean, 8 all of last year. And that, and operate within the structure of the offense. Sal had the number. What was it? His yardage to target, Sal? Something like 3.9 or something in the win over Miami.
Yeah, the other night it was 3.9 average depth target, which is the second shortest of his career. But it was obvious what the Dolphins were doing, and this is what Adam and I have talked about: the maturation of this guy. A couple of years ago, he would still be trying to push the ball downfield and finding a hole in a defense that wasn't permitting a hole to be found back there. Now he dumps it off, puts the ball. They've got 432 yards after catch, Bucky, after 3 games. It's second most in the league. They've totally changed how they gain yards in the passing game, and that's all because Allen has bought into the theory that I am going to take whatever they give me. I'm going to keep the ball out of harm's way. They've gone 400 or 574 plays, Bucky, without a turnover. It's like 8 games they have not turned the ball over. And that's all because Allen has just done such a nice job of giving what the defense is given or taking what the defense is given them.
Yeah. So
Bucky, when you see that, right? How efficient he is, how that he's back and the ball's gone. I mean, watching him against the Dolphins, moving the football, executing, that sort of thing. I mean, he continues to evolve and reach a higher level, especially within the structure of what the Bills are trying to do, which you outline in terms of your comments on Joe Brady.
Yeah, so what's so interesting about Josh Allen, I would say, not that I've never been more wrong on a prospect, but I would say that watching his development from when I watched him personally at the Potato Bowl when he was playing at Wyoming to him being drafted as a top 10 player to becoming the MVP in the league, I've never seen anything like this. Someone who was woefully inaccurate as a collegiate, someone who was a wild card gunslinger, who has reined his game in and become a very efficient playmaker. And I say this respectfully, having played with Brett Favre and seeing Brett Favre win 3 straight MVPs and being there when Brett Favre was magical. Watching Josh Allen is very similar to that, but different because Brett Favre never valued the ball the way that Josh Allen values the ball. And so what I've seen from him is someone who has completely bought into the philosophy of winning that exists in Buffalo, where they talk about the turnovers are everything. Because in the National Football League, turnovers are the biggest deciding factor in games. If you don't turn the ball over, you win, period. To have him play under a defensive-minded head coach and Sean McDermott, who certainly has preached that part of it. If we don't beat ourselves, it's hard for others to beat us. For him to buy in and not turn it over while still retaining the special ability to take over the game the way that he can take it over, whether as a runner, a thrower, an improvisational playmaker, you just don't see that. That is a testament to who he is as a person. One, I would say an avid learner, a growth learner who has taken on the mindset of how can I be great? How can I become the greatest at this position by playing it the right way? 2, a worker bee who not only has been like seeking out answers to play the position well, but a guy who has really worked. Now, I know who he is because he worked with Jordan Palmer, who's a friend, and I've seen that part of it, but he has really worked on his game and built up his mechanics where he can be more efficient and effective. To 3, becoming the great leader that he's become, a man's man, a player that football players rally behind because they see the toughness, they see the courage and instincts, they see how he throws his body on the line, to now selectively picking and choosing when I need to do that. The Josh Allen that came into the league the first 3 or 4 seasons, he would run around reckless and make plays, and that was great. As an older player, you now notice when he does that. 3rd down, red zone, got to have a situation when the game is on the line. That's when Josh Allen will put on the cape. If it's a part of the game early where he doesn't need to jump in that, he won't do it. To me, that is everything about learning how to master the art of winning he's done that, which is why the Buffalo Bills have operated at such a high level the last few years.
All right, so that brings us to the point. FanDuel has the Bills at plus 470, favorites to win the Super Bowl, and that is ahead of both the Ravens and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the thing in the area where they've come up short has obviously been on the defensive side, right? And they did a lot to address that during the course of the offseason. We've seen some good from them, certainly, particularly in that game against the Jets. We've also seen some vulnerability, especially on third down, right?
Mhm.
What's your assessment of where they stand defensively? And are they playing complementary football to the level where they are the true favorite to win the Super Bowl? Understanding that it's extraordinarily early to say that at this point.
Yeah, it's really early, but a lot of it depends on their health. If they're healthy, they're certainly in that conversation to be the last team standing in the league. It's not just winning the AFC, but winning the entire deal. They certainly are good enough to be able to do that. The thing about the Buffalo Bills is they are the masters of complementary football, and they have to do that given what we talked about, their roster. They're not the most talented team, but when they play together, all three phases, offense, defense, special teams, they're very, very tough to beat because they know who they are. And that's a big part of being able to win in this league is having a clear understanding of who you are and how you must play to win games. That said, the only thing that is holding the Buffalo Bills back from being able to be the team that feels the confetti fall on their shoulders is what they do on defense and particularly up front. Every great team has to have a closer or two to finish out games. So you can bring in Joey Bosa, you can have Ed Oliver, but at the end of the day, one of those guys, including Greg Rousseau, they have to be able to deliver the splash plays at the end. We could talk about in Pittsburgh, TJ Watt is the masterful closer who has 34 forced fumbles during his career because at the end of the game, he is going to get to the quarterback and he's going to close it off with some kind of splash play that ends it. Who is going to be the closer for the Buffalo Bills? Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa. Somebody has to be that guy that when they need to get off the field, when they need to close out the game, when they need a big hit on the quarterback to end it, they need that person to emerge. So that is the $1 million question, and that is the question that won't be answered until we get into the postseason. Who is going to be the defensive player that steps up and takes it over when the game needs to be taken over?
Then quickly, I'll follow that, and then before we wrap it up here, and a quick comment on the matchup against the Saints. But does the secondary concern you at all?
I mean, look, like they're a team that plays what I call like team defense in the back end. I love that Tre'Davious White has come back and just been a veteran presence. They're not a team that necessarily locks up and shuts people down. They'll play man to man and do those things, but they are what I call a schematic wonder in terms of how they play in the back end. High IQ defense does a great job of keeping the ball in front. They don't do it. Now, if they have to get into a situation where they have to match up man to man, that's where they can be exposed. But typically, they're playing the game on their terms. And that's why they really have to play complementary ball. Meaning, if I go in knowing that my offense is going to put up high 20s, low 30s, it changes the way that I play defense. I'm willing to concede yards, but take away the big plays and be great in the red zone. As long as the offense operates at a high efficiency level, then it's less important for the defense to be a shutdown defense. The trick will be, what if someone cracks the code on that offense and slows it down? Are the Bills good enough on defense to engage in a low-scoring affair where they can win with the defense leading the way 17-14 and those things? That's the evolution that they have to undergo this season, and that's where Sean McDermott has to keep impressing upon the team. Yeah, no matter what it is now in terms of our record, here are the things that we have to get done if we're going to be the team that runs through the postseason. That is the trick, and that's where the head coach has to manage those expectations. Yeah, we're not only competing for what we want to get done in the regular season, let's have an eye towards the postseason, and this is how we're going to need to play to be able to be one of those final teams.
All right, great point. Now, we've lost Sal Maiorana for technical reasons, so I'll wrap it up here. But again, Bills and Saints, 0-3, New Orleans comes to Orchard Park on Sunday. And I mean, this is a game, obviously, where the Bills should take care of business. Is there... I mean, how would you characterize this New Orleans team to the extent you followed them? Are they just a group that's kind of starting to find its way or trying to find its way under a new coach in Kellen Moore? And I know they were in the first couple of games, the losses to the Cardinals and the 49ers, and then Seattle blew them out as they hit the road. What's your take on New Orleans and their chances in this matchup on Sunday?
This would be one of the biggest tests for the Bills, not because of what New Orleans brings as a team from a talent standpoint, but more so this is a trap game. It'd be easy to look at the tape and see how they were dismantled by the Seattle Seahawks and not give them the full attention and not give them the respect that they deserve from a preparation standpoint. This is why Sean McDermott has to do a great job of making sure that his guys are primed and ready to play. When it comes to the Saints, what they are is they have a few veteran players that can make plays, but those plays are few and far between. You have a quarterback situation where you have Spencer Rattler playing right now, who, look, former 5th-round pick, okay player, but he can put the ball in harm's way. They have some talent on the perimeter, Alvin Kamara, Brandon Cooks, and some of those guys, but not quite enough to consistently compete with the top teams. But what we do know, in a league where the Cleveland Browns knocked off the Green Bay Packers when everyone was saying the Green Bay Packers were written in to be title contenders, any given Sunday, anything can happen. So to me, this is a big game where we will see the emotional maturity of a championship squad be tested. If they're mature enough to come out and take care of business, this is one where the Buffalo Bills should win by 2 scores and win going away. But if they don't have their full focus, this would be a test of wills, and this could be one that goes into the fourth quarter. It really, the Bills determine what happens, how they approach it, how they take the field, and if they're locked in and focused on Sunday.
Yeah, and one of the things we started off talking about Sean McDermott and the job that he's done. I mean, I think that there's plenty of examples of his players, especially given what they've been through and what they've experienced in falling short and the culture and all of that. I don't feel like they're in a position where they take teams for granted. I mean, I think there's a track record of them not doing that. And so I feel good about that aspect of the evolution of the job that he's done and their preparation for Sunday. And final season, of course, at Highmark Stadium. I know you have some memories from your time in Buffalo. How special is it for you as we wrap it up to kind of see them turn the page and move across Abbott Road to the new facility next year?
Yeah, such a crazy and surreal experience. Like having been drafted by the Buffalo Bills and spent a little over a year there playing there, having lived literally down the street around the corner from the stadium. It's so crazy to see the new stadium going up. Last year I had an opportunity to see it firsthand. Came into town when the Bills played the Jaguars and just amazed at what they were building right across the street. This is one where the Buffalo Bills need to have a state-of-the-art facility, need to have a state-of-the-art stadium to really reward the fans for being able to have a first-class experience when they go to games. But you're certainly going to miss the environment of the old stadium, all the great memories that took place there. I think about the games that took place before when they came back against the Houston Oilers and rallied behind Frank Wright, being able to get it done. Having watched all those great players, those Hall of Fame players, and Andre Reed and Thurman Thompson, Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, and on and on and on. Those are the great teams. But now seeing the tide of this team is going to move into the new building as a championship caliber team, and to be able to see that baton exchange between eras, it's great to see. So look, it's a fantastic stadium. It's been a fantastic run in Western New York, and really looking forward to more decades of greatness from the Buffalo Bills in a new stadium.
All right, Bucky Brooks, thank you so much for your time today. Bucky Brooks, Believe Network, The Bucky Brooks Show, former Buffalo Bill. Thanks so much. Really appreciate your time and your insight.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
All right, and for Sal Maiorana, who again we lost for technical reasons, Sal Maiorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. I am Adam Benigni of WGRZ TV, Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Thanks for being with us here on Believe in Bills, presented by FanDuel.